We'll get started briefly. All right, this meeting is being called to order at 6:41 PM in the State Street Room in the U Center by IPP Pinto, myself. Before we begin, we call for students to acknowledge the lands of the University of California locations were built upon, were expropriated and founded upon exclusions and erasures of indigenous peoples' human rights throughout California. UCSB is built on Chumash land, specifically that of the non-federally recognized Badbanino tribe. As an association that pushes the student body's voices to the forefront, we should aim to make strides past just acknowledgement to those who continue to fight for their right to be recognized and respected as the ritual stewards of this land. I ask you all to dedicate time and care, personal education, and to advocate for justice alongside indigenous peoples. I will be yielding chairship to Senator Lala for the duration of the meeting. And now we will be moving into roll call.
Thank you. Senator Dolly Gerson. Senator Alexa Butler. Senator Alexa Butler. Senator Carla Lankarani. Senator Taylor Iden.
Present.
Senator Lala, President. Senator Leah Kadal. Not really. Senator Leah Kadal.
Present.
Senator Yasmin Suk. Senator Yasmin Suk. Senator Leo Sandy.
Present.
Senator Ming Jun Zhao.
Present, yes.
Senator Levi Corley, President.
Yes.
Senator Ming Jun Zhao.
Present.
Senator Isabella McClintock. Senator Isabella McClintock. Senator Alejandro Martinez. Senator Lily Hobos. Senator Paulo Brenderson.
Present.
Senator Iman Hedula.
Present.
Senator Jasmine Amin. Senator Dan Siddiqui. Senator Noura El Khatib. Senator Sandy Ganesh. Senator Ariman Singh. Senator Olabisi Olaitan. Senator Nadeem Alhis. Senator Ahmed Chaudhry.
Present.
Okay, Senator Kamala Dali. One second, guys. Okay, Alexa just gave access to the actual thing. You just copy the. Did we call Senator Olaitan? Did we hear? Yeah, okay. Senator Ashley Valenzuela.
Present.
Present, okay. We'll give a second for our volunteer to copy that over. You have it?
I don't.
I think I should.
That's an actual agenda.
Okay. With that. I can do that as well.
I'm behind you again. But if you'd like to, I can still help.
Yeah, I'll just. Okay, let's move into excused absences. Senator Lakarani,
Motion to excuse Senator Suk for the duration of the meeting.
there's been a motion to excuse Senator Suk for the duration of the meeting. Is there a second? Senator Malhis? There's been a second. We're on discussion. Senator Dahl.
Call the question.
Question has been called. Is there any objections?
Consent.
I hear consent. Is there any objection to consent? Hearing none, motion passes. Senator Lakarani,
Motion to excuse Senator McClintock for the duration of the meeting.
there's been a motion to excuse Senator McClintock for the duration of the meeting. Is there a second? Senator Dahl?
Second.
There's been a second. We're on discussion.
No question.
Then call the question. Is there any objection to call the question?
Consent.
Yeah.
I move to excuse our absence just for the sake of administrating.
is he moves to excuse all absences. Is there any more specific ones people will be joining us later? Anything we should
Oh,
keep in mind?
yes.
Yeah, specific ones.
it's just, it's, you have a job motion, but I can't take motion on that many motions.
Say it again.
I can't take minutes on that many motions.
So we can excuse absences for now, and then when people join later, we can just join, we can mark down that they've joined but late.
Yeah.
How about we do that?
I mean, I just have two people that they're gonna get here just later.
I was similar situations.
I'm sorry?
I was similar situation like someone else. Like. others are-
Then we can just accept all of these and not make hers.
I mean, too.
Sorry,
It's just we are very short staffed taking the motion onto the minutes. So if we can just vote and approve otherwise, then we don't have to do individual motions, which will take around 20 minutes for us to make that onto the minutes. Yeah.
I would welcome such a motion.
Sure.
Sir,
Just like you were saying, we can not only excuse all of them, and then once they join, they're just excused up until that point.
I would welcome such a motion. Yes, all right.
Motion to bundle excuse all absence.
There's been a motion to vote on excuse all absences. Is there a second? Senator Ronnie?
Second.
There's been a second. We're now in discussion. Senator Goff?
On question.
The question has been called. Is there any objections?
Consent.
Are you consent? Is there any objections to consent? Hearing none, motion passes. Sure.
So. Now that we just like under the approval of absences, would this like work, like if I have a friend who's in the meeting right now, but wants to leave at up to a certain time, is that excuse?
Senator Goff?
Yes, we'll just mark them as late on the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, me.
Clarification, I think what the senator is asking is if someone wants to leave, they're already here and wants to leave after a certain number.
Well, please be called on first. So let me know if this interpretation is correct. Everyone, whether you're joining us late or you're here currently, will be leaving later. You would just be marked as present but late. Is that correct? Senator Jean?
Depends on the duration of the leaving, but the term is about to end, so it's fine. It's fine.
Unless there's any objections by the interim director, maybe we can just proceed with that. Okay, let's move into acceptance of proxies. Senator Goff?
I believe the senator was asking about excusals after a certain time, like to leave this meeting a bit early, not to excuse people who are coming in late. And if they should still make those motions.
Senator Jean?
If the Senate wish, they can make a motion to preemptively accept our excusal, but we can just mark that on the agenda as excuse if senators want to leave the meeting, let's say after a certain time. And yet,
Sorry,
So just to clarify, you're asking if someone leaves or someone comes late? Someone comes late?
No. If someone.
Ceremonies.
A senator's in the meeting right now, and at a certain time, they wanna leave the meeting. But they're here right now.
sorry.
So since we bundle excuse all absences, if you are absent, you should just be fine to leave.
Okay, that's right.
Okay, I think that's settled. We're moving into acceptance of proxies. Those are the motions I'll be accepting. All right,
I also just want to say that the agenda format with like the present and late isn't codified in legal code, so it's either like you're present or you're excused. That's the whole late thing doesn't exist. But that's besides the point. You can move on.
that's not a problem we can fix right now. So is there any motions for acceptance of proxies? Hearing none, we have a few reports that I know are time constrained. First amongst which I know,
advice will go down the agenda. Let's go to this report and we can skip no business and then,
yeah, that's what's on.
so let's just go down the agenda. We can skip new business, but let's just go down to the report.
Yeah.
So we should ask this representative. So we should count those things together here. We should count them.
Okay, so we're skipping new business for now and going into external reports. Is there a chancellor's representative present? UCPD representative, Graduate Student Association representative, USM Governance Board, IBCSD representative. Okay, seeing none.
You should ask about unanimous consent to.
So there's all.
If we want to skip certain parts of the agenda, I would advise the chair to ask for unanimous consent to suspend the order of the day and then move to the part he wishes to move into.
Yeah, just a little bit of rationale on that. We have a few time constraint reports, people we need to get out of here by a certain time, so I think it would be wise if we move to those reports and then jump back into new business, so. before we go.
You should say, you can just ask for unanimous consent to suspend the order of the day and go, no, if no one objects, it just has.
But I ask for unanimous consent
Suspend the order
to suspend the order
of the day
of the day,
and move into.
and move into committee reports.
Consent.
Okay, we'll begin with the outreach committee report under J2. If the representatives can come up. Can we please link that on can we put it on the Zoom as well? I believe they have a presentation ready.
We can put it on the Zoom, but.
Okay.
Hi, Holly, could you please share the presentation on the Zoom, please?
Yes, has it been sent to all of us?
Yes, it's in the thread. I sent it in my capacity as a senator to the first 4:30 agenda thread. I can also forward it to you.
Okay, yeah, can someone forward it to me, please? My inbox is kind of a mess and I've lost it since then.
Very good.
Yeah, if you want, I can also give one of you all screen share.
I just forwarded it, of
Perfect, thank you.
course. Don't need to read the speaker do this. No,
This is not public forum, so.
so we can just begin.
Yeah.
Give us just a minute to put that up. Time allotted to the-
There's no time limit. so-
Oh, also, if anyone is here for public forum, I believe the form is up there with a pen as well. We can move into that later.
This is the right
Yes,
presentation.
you can confirm that's the right one?
That's correct.
Okay, the representatives of the outreach committee, you can begin, whatever.
How should I indicate to advance?
Just say next slide or go to the last slide. Holly, I believe you can control that.
Yes, I can.
Brilliant. Okay, you guys can begin.
Okay, thank you, senators, for allowing us to present this presentation on behalf of the outreach committee. My name is Leo. My name is Ali. Obviously, we're presenting today in regards to two surveys that were recently issued by the outreach committee. Please continue. Next. So basically, if you guys are not familiar, the outreach committee recently issued two surveys. One of them was a housing survey, which just gathered basic data on a variety of different housing questions, like the quality of the housing, questions in regards to how they acquired the housing, what their signing situation looked like. And then we also issued another survey that was titled the Senate Perception Survey, which is very self-explanatory. It's a survey that we use to gather student perception on the Senate. So basically, the method that we used was Qualtrics, which is I'm sure you guys are familiar, it's a popular survey tool. And then obviously over the course of a few weeks, nearly 300 students submitted responses to these surveys. And then Ali and we analyzed that data using R, so coding language, and then a couple other tools as far as including like human visual analysis, and then comparative analysis. And then some of the takeaways that we have are also included in this slide deck as well. So that would be the comprehensive methodology. Yes, so basically the key objectives of these surveys was to one, engage with student body in the capacity of the outreach committee, that is our role. And part of that role is to ensure that the Senate is committed, or excuse me, ensure that the Senate is indeed engaging with students, gathering information, and then translating that to the Senate so that you guys can go ahead and act upon it. And then obviously in regards to the Senate perception survey, we are hoping that this information can be used to act as a framework for future Senate action, such that, you know, you guys understand how people feel about the Senate and are able to go ahead and write legislation that addresses some of their concerns, which are included, of course, in this slide deck. And then the housing survey, we figure that it can be useful for a variety of different Senate bodies, including IDTU, and then general Senate awareness as well, if you will. Next. So the first information that we want to go over is a Senate perception survey. Yeah. So basically what's going to happen is we have about 3 or 4 slides of just raw data, and the data speaks well for itself. We have some suggestions after the data itself and some interpretations of it. But for now, I would just suggest that you go ahead and look at it. And then if you have any questions in regards to it, direct them towards us. But it's pretty self-explanatory. Our goal is to just present this to you as of right now. And then if we don't have any questions, then I'm just gonna go ahead and move to the next one, right? So next. Yeah, so this one is really interesting because if you notice on the previous one, which we don't need to go back to, most people are unaware of what the Senate even is. Most of the respondents have 0 clue what the Senate does, what it is, what its function is, of its existence. So it makes sense that most people have neither a positive nor negative view of it. And some of the more data sets, what we think is extremely important, which will be revealed, is that people who do have or are somewhat familiar with the Senate have a pretty positive interpretation of it. There are some exceptions, but we will address those. So go ahead and continue, please. Yeah, so this one again speaks to the fact that without an awareness of what the Senate is, a lot of people are just completely neutral on it. With the exception of a few people that have an extremely low opinion of it, in general, I guess this data suggests that you guys are doing a decent job of representing the students. For the people that are aware of it, at least. Continue. Okay, so this is the slide that I thought was extremely interesting, because it's a correlation slide where you can see how unfamiliar people are relates directly to their positive or negative interpretation of it. This slide basically combines the information from the previous ones. There are some people, obviously, in the extremely familiar section who have this negative viewpoint on the Senate itself and the actions that you guys have taken recently. But as far as this data is concerned, most people that are familiar statistically have an extremely positive viewpoint of the Senate. So these are some of the issues that were risen by the students themselves, by the respondents. And I highlighted a few of them that I thought were particularly interesting. And you can go ahead and read a few of them if you'd like. And then obviously the bottom one is a theme that is continuous throughout the entire survey and throughout all of the data collection, is that there's just not enough transparency. Quite literally, this data suggests that people who are aware of the Senate are pleased with it, but the majority of people are unaware, which would suggest that the main takeaway that the Senate should have for this presentation is that you guys need to improve your guys' relationship with the students in terms of actually connecting with them. You guys have to, statistically, you guys have to do a lot more in the way of connecting with students. Yeah, so this one also is it's just a reflection of what people are aware of. And then obviously, as you can see, these are some of the things that people have mentioned. And then also we included, just for just for the sake of having a well-rounded sample, there are plenty of people who did say that we're not aware of the issues. Obviously, this is just a sample. There are plenty of other responses, but in compiling all the data, we tried to get basically the gist of it, if you will. Continue. Okay, this one's extremely important because it. Wait, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question on the first, point, where it says defending non-organization, give me an idea what that might be.
Can you go back just so I can read it again?
First bullet point.
Yeah. I was going over that and I felt like, for one. One of the things was, I assumed that you guys would have a little bit more information on that, just because. Go ahead.
My guess would be about Kaj, because we were talking, because we dissolved the commission on cultural arts and joy justice to move those funds into the food bank.
Yeah,
And that's been like really on and off these past couple Sundays for like, at least since the beginning of winter quarter. That would be my like most educated guess.
I appreciate the explanation. Please be recognized before you speak, but go
Oh, I'm
ahead.
sorry.
yes, so. My bad, I didn't mean to recognize.
You're
you,
sure,
not
go
my
ahead.
authority. So, yeah. I presented this under the assumption that you guys would have a little bit more information than I did in regards to that specific line. And I think that sounds like a plausible explanation as far as I'm concerned. Next slide. Yes, so as I was saying, this one is very thematic because as you can tell, there are a lot of people who just don't know what the Senate does. Improve information access for students to hear about what is happening in the Senate. I don't know anything about the Senate or how to interact with it. More information, more publicity on what the Senate is doing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The theme is continuous. We need to do a lot more to connect with students. We need to publicize what we're doing more. And by nature of publicizing what we're doing more, if this whole social contract theory is real, then people are going to give you guys more and more things to work with, if you will, like more of the issues that are occurring on campus can be addressed by you guys by nature of the interaction that you guys will be establishing with them, hopefully after this presentation. Continue. Okay, yes, this is the student housing survey. Another slide, continue. So again, we have quite a bit of data here. Go ahead and just take a glance at some of it. I would obviously suggest that after the presentation, you go ahead and look a little bit more closely at some of this stuff. We have interpretations of the data following these sets, but for now, this is just raw data that we have just to show you guys what we were working with. If we don't have any questions, then just please continue. Yes, this is another data set. This is just the stuff we're working with, yeah, and then this one, let's come back to this one. Let me just continue. Yeah, okay, so this one is especially important because it's a little bit more comprehensive, a little more comprehensible just by nature of people being able to write their responses. And obviously, this is like some of the ones I highlighted are some of the most significant issues that people were having. And then everything else on there is obviously significant because people did write about it, but the ones that I highlighted are the ones that we're going to be addressing in terms of suggestions and things like that. So if you have any questions about any of this stuff, please go ahead and let me know. For now, I suppose we can just continue. That's a lot of information, I know. Yes, I thought this was extremely useful because these are the things that have been effective. The one thing that I would suggest as an interpretation from this was we didn't get enough people, or we didn't get enough information on how these systems were effective for people. We have obviously Housing Helper, which was written about in the Nexus recently, the Housing Fair and the Parkville Center. I feel like some of this stuff like Housing Helper is pretty self-explanatory. Like if you guys are unfamiliar, it's that app that that Damon made, which basically it just streamlines the finding the housing process. It's really good, but that's pretty self-explanatory. But things like IDTU, EOP, the EOP has has the rent program, the rent subsidization program, which is effective, obviously, but we didn't get enough information on that specifically. So another interpretation that I may provide is that since we have a given set of things that are helpful for the students in terms of finding housing, maybe we should press a little bit more and then figure out how that stuff was specifically helpful. Continue. Okay, so basically, this is an executive summary of everything we just discussed. I divided the housing perception survey, the percent perception survey, the housing survey, and suggestions / takeaways that we've had throughout the entire slideshow into 3 separate categories. As you can see, all of the information that I presented to you is written out again. And then some of the suggestions that we have would be to host the housing socials that the students who need roommates can attend, where they can meet prospective roommates. This is essentially what Housing Helper does, but I think that doing it in person could go a long way. The housing fair seems like it offers a decent framework to do that, if not the best framework. Maybe just consider ways when you guys are writing legislation and figuring out ways that you can improve student access to housing. Maybe consider augmenting the housing fair such that it increases interaction. Like there's an opportunity for kids to actually go and meet people who are going to be looking for housing, stuff like that. There's creative ways to get people together and, you know, to ensure that there's a better like housing situation for them in the future than just randomly signing a lease with people. And I know, I mean, personally, I can see a lot of opportunity in the housing fair. I can definitely see that if the Senate puts the work into advertising, to ensuring that there's a lot of outreach and to bringing as many students in as possible, it can become a staple of the community and definitely be very effective for a lot of students. So, ambition aside, I guess, the housing fair is a good opportunity. So increase student engagement on TikTok and Instagram. This is something that I didn't recommend personally. It came from the students themselves. And I included that as a quote specifically because it shows what students prefer. I mean, just by nature of modernization, the Senate should probably consider ways to modernize as well, which means engaging with people via TikTok, Instagram, ways that they are asking to be engaged with. This is the data speaking for itself. And then host more in-person engagement opportunities. And then the budget for a fee waiver. This is just a budget recommendation to an extent, because one of the continuous issues in the housing survey was that people are applying for literally 10, 20, 30, sometimes 40 different housing situations, like they're setting applications for a bunch of different housing accommodations, and they're being charged for every single one, and they're only getting accepted to maybe 1 or 2, 3 at most. And just by nature of how competitive it is, they're kind of forced to spend a bunch more money than is really feasible for them. And so the Senate can consider maybe actually subsidizing the cost for those fees. It's something that we do somewhat with the rent subsidization program, but we can consider ways to expand that and ease the burden on students. Next slide. Okay, that concludes our presentation.
Okay, let's, giving time, someone in mind, let's move into questions. Do you guys have questions?
Do we have questions?
You're willing to accept
Oh,
questions
we're
from
willing to
senators?
accept
Okay.
questions.
Anyone have any questions? Senator Waidula?
Thank you so much for all the work you guys have been doing, as well as the outreach committee, dedication you guys have, and just the work you guys have been putting into all the detail and everything, just all of the numerous amount of work. Really appreciate it. It means a lot. And I think just looking into it, I looked over the yesterday as well. I'm curious as to a little bit know more about regards to the conference you guys have been using. Just like, I don't know if you guys have any information in that regards to that, but do you guys do you guys know what platform students are getting their from, or why looking at it, like why was it 80% were made unfamiliar with the Senate? If you as well.
So, Ollie, if you like to speak on it, you can. I can speak on it as well. Okay, perfect. So, As far as I'm concerned, a lot of students get their Senate information from the Senate Instagram. They're able to access it via that way, and then the emails that you guys distribute as well. Personally, I get a lot of information, from my email, but, just by nature of people being on Instagram a lot recently, and we know that a lot of kids get their information on Instagram as well. I don't know if Senate has a TikTok. I don't think it does. So, yeah, that's clearly, there's clearly an absence there. Actually, in regards to the emails, one of the pieces of advice that we received from the students was that they want updated emails regarding all of the legislation that happens from you guys. So students want literally, for lack of better words, like a summary of Senate actions. I know you can access that like via the minutes and stuff, and you can do it manually, but that's something that you'd be surprised how many students have an interest in, just don't really want to put in the work to go scroll through the minutes, or to ask people for a summary, or to ask people that they know in the Senate for updates and stuff like that, like just a summary, an email summary after every meeting or after every couple meetings, just so people know what's going on.
I believe a member of the public has a comment. Is it relevant to this?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
your website is like 2 years outdated. Your downloads for your meeting minutes, it goes all the way back to 2005. People want to find this information. It's not there.
I believe you'll be speaking somewhat on this in public forum. Okay, we'll move into that soon then. Okay, let's go back into questions. Anyone? Senator Dolly?
I know it's not as frequent as it could be, because of KCSB also report on all of our.
Actually, yeah, that's a really good point. KCSB and the Nexus and the bottom line all report on Senate issues to an extent, but it's limited, obviously. And not to mention, I mean, I see where you're coming from, but 100%, and they should continue to report on these things 100%, but it's also, in my opinion, the Senate's responsibility to report on it itself. It shouldn't be, outsourced to the Nexus and stuff, but 100%, students do require a lot of information from those sources as well.
I just have one more follow-up, because I know, sorry, I didn't mean to word it like we suck and they don't, but. Is there also somewhere we can see like the data for who actually is reading it? Because I know emails are really helpful, but like, take the surveys, for example, when we get emailed out, like, text them, so like, would email be helpful at all?
Okay, so I am aware that there are softwares that people can use so that you can actually know if a person read your email, how long they looked at it for, this sort of thing. I don't know if we use that software. I don't have the answer to that, but I know that exists, and you guys being senators can potentially legislate that into existence and legislate that into something that the Senate uses. Any more questions?
Senator Ronnie?
First thing, thank you. I really like this presentation. It was very informative. So I noticed you're on the ballot for the next Senate cohort. As a senator, where would you get started with this? Like, if you were elected today, what were the first steps that you would take basically?
Yeah, 100%. So first thing I would do was personally as a senator, and I think a lot of you guys kind of.
Well, no,
Yeah,
I'll do.
okay. Senator Doll.
I really do appreciate the great work you and your team have done. But since we are elections in presumably next week and you are a candidate, I think it will be more proper if you refrain from talking about your campaign promise as in the capacity as an officer of the association.
I think it would be proper if it was phrased in something like the ideal senator would, does not necessarily violate that.
True, but since question has been already asked, case.
Just no ads.
Senator Bryant, would you like to rephrase the question?
I'll just present it. Not bad.
I think that's really better. Okay, we'll make this the last question unless, okay, two more. We'll see. Go ahead.
Excluding the candidacy, the Senate's concerns should be any potential candidate's concerns, regardless of when their tenure is, regardless of if they are indeed a senator at the time. It's not a resume powder, this position. So if anyone would like to discuss ideas outside of this platform, I'd be happy to do so.
So Mohit,
Just, commenting on what you said, like, you saying what, Senator LaCroix said, the presentation was very clear, and I really liked how you guys found it in maps. And all the, like, the, representations, are, that you guys have collected. I believe, like, the idea with the social media is especially, like, powerful because, particularly on, like, Instagram, a lot of, like, student follow, a lot of the student body follows a lot of like organizations and related stuff, because it's like a little bit more professional than that talk. So it'd be like really helpful if you like post more Instagram reels, maybe even make like posts every week, just saying what was like passed. I know I've seen some of those in the past, like resolutions that were passed. So if you like, maybe make those more frequent and then try to increase our follower count and be more connected with the students on the Instagram platform, that would be great. And I would love to talk to you.
100%, yeah, 100%. Looking at the data has given me lots of ideas, so anyone who is interested in discussing them, I'd be pleased to do so. Thank you, by the way, for your comments.
yeah, and you can connect with our communications director, Rosana, as well. And let's make this the last one.
Can I do a quick back and forth?
Yes,
How many responses were you able to get?
281.
Okay, nice.
sorry, there's two surveys. Do you remember the figure for the second one?
It was 281 is combined.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's combined factoring in, students who did proved up both.
Uh-huh.
So 281 unique respondents responded to.
Got it.
global
Got it,
surveys.
okay.
And my other question is, were you able to speak to the resident hall association? I'm assuming no. So, because my idea with this is, when I was a freshman, a lot of the housing is done by word of mouth, like you were saying, and like you kind of find out, like some people get their leases done in like September, and then like, I guess you call them like the less ideal, more expensive living spaces are like done by January. I'd recommend myself as well, talk to RHA about having the actual RAs. Like do a, like my RA would do like meetings, just kind of talk about whatever, or, and do a session on like financing. Because they do a great job with their trainings. And I think that'd be a great start from like the freshman level, because no one really tells you how to find housing here.
Right, 100%. 100%, I agree with everything. Thank you for your comments.
Okay. I believe there's last one, sorry.
First of all, thank you. Second, so you guys got 280 responses. How did you guys collect all of that?
As in like,
How did you find these?
well,
But I like to make it very simple. It's through a bulk email to the entire student body, and the data is processed through the platform. Oh my God, Ida, what's the name? Qualtrics that Sean Lieberman provided, and we were able to process data through that. Do you want to add anything else to that? Okay, all right. Thank you both for coming. The lucid presentation and Ollie for the data. You guys are both a huge credit to this association. I appreciate it. Okay, in the interest of preserving people's time, I believe this is the most time constrained one. We're going to move into discussion items specifically on the Narcan high impact project proposal. Leanne, if you would like to come up and present on it. Yeah, floor.
My name is Leanne Metzger. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the co-chair of the AS Commission on Student Wellbeing. I'm presenting this high impact project proposal. I believe, has the link been made? Yeah, the link is on the agenda.
Leanne, if you would like, actually, you can proceed, but we're going to try to put it up on the screen as well. Just I'd like to let people on Zoom know. Please go on.
Yeah, that's perfect. So I'm gonna walk through the proposal, and then there's also a bill related to it in new business that I can discuss as well. So this high impact project proposal is to provide Narcan in all university owned undergraduate housing. So if you scroll down, we can go to the project. I'll talk about the project overview, which basically details the project. So Justice for Recovery, AS Commission on Student Wellbeing, and AS Public and Mental Health Commission seek to expand overdose prevention efforts by installing 40 emergency Narcan wall-mounted cabinets across the 9 residence halls and 7 undergraduate complexes. The boxes will contain 4
containers of Narcan, which is the opioid overdose reversal antidote, and will be accessible for our students to take at all times in the case of an emergency. And above each wall-mounted box will be a sign saying that there's Narcan available here, should be taken only in emergency circumstances. And there'll be a link to instructions on how they can, pick up a personal supply of Narcan, where else they can get Narcan on campus, and then a QR code to alert that the box has been emptied. And this is how UC Berkeley currently has, this is the method that UC Berkeley uses for their Narcan cabinets. And so with regards to the restocking of these boxes, the Public and Mental Health Commission will be in charge of it. So they will coordinate with Gouches for Recovery Student Health to receive the supply of Narcan for free and coordinate with UCSB campus housing to receive keys to access housing so that they can put the Narcan into the boxes when necessary. So the Public Health Special Projects Coordinator will be overseeing this, and that's what the PMHC bill on the agenda is regarding. And they will receive the key to the university housing and any volunteers as necessary. And at the beginning of each quarter, the cabinets will be stocked fully with Narcan. And then they will be refilled on a monthly basis if the QR code has been alerted that it's empty. And an MOU is going to be signed between PMHC, student health, and campus housing through an emergency agreement. And so a little bit about the budget funding request that is associated with this project. So each cabinet costs $159.95. The total cost of 40 cabinets with an estimated sales tax comes out to approximately $7,000. The installation of these boxes shall be carried out by campus housing, so housing, dining, and auxiliary enterprises, their directors. And the cost of the installation will be $80 per cabinet to cover labor costs. So that'll be a total of $3,200 for installation costs. An additional $100 for printing, the printing and lamination of the signs that will go above the box, and then also publicity costs so that we can advertise that this is a thing, this is a resource that's now available. And then an additional $1,000 is requested to cover any unfixed legal costs. And the total amount requested is $11,300. And then just to reemphasize, the cost of stocking and restocking the cabinets with Narcan will continue to fall under student health, the Gouches for Recovery's expenses. So this is really a one-time one-time cost to purchase and install the cabinets. And so currently students can only receive Narcan during Gouches for Recovery's office hours. And there's also a box at the student resource building. Seeing as these resources have limited hours and an overdose could occur at any time, we believe that this increased access to Narcan in places where students are living could prevent many more overdoses. And considering that there is a persisting fentanyl crisis and there have been past deaths of UCSB students in past years, including at residence halls, we think that it's crucial that UCSB takes actions to respond and increasing access to Narcan for the first step. So if we can continue to the team background, the team is made up of a coalition of students from Gouches for Recovery, COSWEB, PMHC, and the Senate, listed here. Myself, Rusty Miller, who's the PMHC co-chair last year, Audrey Feldstad, who's the current public health coordinator in PMHC, Avery Lindsay is the lead overdose prevention intern in Gouches for Recovery, and then Senator Lincoln and Senator CDP are the Senate sponsors. Moving on, project mission. Again, it's just to prevent overdose and also raise awareness of Narcan. Approximately, from my research, 38% of student population lives in university-owned housing. So that means that amount of people will have immediate access to Narcan. And then also just the presence of the boxes will really raise awareness of what Narcan is and that they can pick up a personal supply from Gouches for Recovery. So moving on to some more specifics, so the 40 Narcan cabinets will be installed by campus housing, and the locations for the cabinets have been determined by housing themselves, by the directors. So so boxes will either be in front desks of areas, or in bathrooms, or sometimes like outside near like the fire extinguisher, and will be ensured to be ADA compliant. And that's the list of where the locations will be. And this list is gonna be provided, well, we're all in communication, but this was the person who will be installing it has this list. And just a note that there's a couple in the Chi 5. The plan is to install a second box in the first floor bathroom that's like open to everyone. And these are gender neutral. In the off chance that we're wrong and they're not gender neutral, we'll get a second one to put in each of the women's and men's bathroom, and that's just what the unforeseeable costs would cover that. Moving on to project timeline. This started in the spring of 2024 with a petition in support of this project, and then the 74th Senate passed a resolution supporting it. Conversations started in the summer and fall, and then nailing down logistics has been happening since winter quarter. And yeah, this quarter we finalized logistics. We're gonna sign the MOUs, the funding request obviously, and then as soon as all goes well, I will be ordering the Narcan cabinets on Gateway Amazon. Then they will be installed during the summer by housing. I'm gonna submit a work order request to get the quote, journal entry the money. And then fall 2025, they'll be ready and stocked. And so moving on, there is the budget outline, which I already went over, but it's just put there again. And then if you move further down is a picture and the link to the actual cabinet that will be purchased. And so as you can see, the cabinet holds 4 boxes of Narcan, as opposed to some of the ones we were looking at only held 1 box. So this means that it won't have to be restocked as often, and like they're more likely to be one in case of emergency. This specific cabinet was chosen by housing staff, like the people who are installing it, after considering multiple options. And a benefit is that can go inside or outside, it's not locking. And again, the cabinets will be ordered on Gateway and shipped to AS Main, and then housing staff will pick it up from there. And then the last thing is, if you scroll down, it's just a mock-up of the sign that will be going near the boxes, but just saying, you know, this is for emergency use only, just so that people aren't just grabbing them, and then there's a chance that it might not be stocked in case of emergency. Yeah, that's kind of the overview of it, and I'm willing to answer any questions, and I can also talk about the bill to amend the public and mental health.
There you go.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Leanne. That's an amazing presentation, and I think that's really meaningful to spend student fee in this way. It saves lives. I do have a question though. On table of content, I saw that it's part called anticipated issues, but I don't think it's included in the report itself. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I had that for a while, but I haven't been able to think of any anticipated issues. I think the things that I had there, we ultimately like ended up discussing. I can add it back in. I'd say maybe an anticipated issue would be like publicity, but yeah, again, a big thing this fall would be a publicity campaign with Positive PMHD and GFR to make us aware of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry.
I will say you guys have an awesome team going on, like all the groups you're doing. I don't know if you want to add them, but Life of the Party is also another really good resource for coordinating something like this, if you want to like expand the reach.
Any other questions? Could you repeat that last part? Who would also be for the?
Magic Party, it's a alcohol and alcohol awareness and like drug overdose prevention program on campus.
No other, sorry, Senator Dahlia?
So it's the, how often? is it that it's stopped?
Yeah, so they'll all be restocked at the start of the quarter, and then if, the QR code or like alerts them, then they'll be restocked on a monthly basis. So it won't necessarily be like, oh, I've received an alert, and the alerts will go to the public health coordinator and PHE. It won't be like, oh, that she received an alert and then we'll like go do it the next day, but it's more like, oh, on like the last day of every month, she'll go restock the ones that have been alerted to be empty.
That's everything. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move into public forum then. I believe the first is Osania. Okay, so speaking agreements, which you've definitely never heard before. You have 2.5 minutes to speak with 2 minutes for Q&A. Please state your name, pronouns, enunciate, but refrain from yelling. Speculation of senators' intentions and abilities is prohibited and will result in strike. 3 strikes and you will be removed from the ability to speak on the floor. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. You may speak on any issue, whether it's on the agenda or not. Please include a content warning if it will be graphic. You may only come up once and you may choose to not answer any questions. Do you accept the speaking agreements?
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, you can speak. 2 minutes.
I'm gonna talk about the outreach, but they like update you on like what was happening, because I never updated you guys last time on what I was doing with Savage, which is ESB. Basically, what had happened was last quarter, I had a bunch of meetings with them talking about like, hey, doing something like this, about Planet or AS at all. And they like didn't really care. And then you know, I was over at Psycheditch, Margaret, BCSA Margaret, and she was like, wow. And so now we're working together with her office and creating a unit and Chelsea specifically, with to me like a better outreach for next year, because well, it's really easy, honestly. It's a click of a button. I keep telling them that. I don't think they really care though. So as easy as it would sound to just get outreach, it's really obnoxious because I guess they don't like us. From basically what I got from UCSB Live, which is 16,000 followers, they work a lot better, but so good that they have a schedule already done. So we can't like fit ourselves into their schedule until like next year, because that would make a lot more sense for them. And I understand that, so I'll like whatever, but working with Margaret, we're basically gonna hopefully have like hope it doesn't have to be a proposal to John Wombrick, which is the something of external relations. And I'm also working with her to have a AS University announcement for AS executives, instead of having to go to Margaret's office and talk to 3 people. And yeah, and if Outreach Committee wants to work with me, as in I just told them to work with Margaret, then that'd be good. And that'll be good for next year. That's all I want to say. That's good.
Okay, thank you for your continuing work and for snitching on our behalf. That's great. Do we have any questions? Okay, all right, thanks so much. Next on public forum is Charlie. How's it going? So you also have 2.5 minutes to speak with 2 minutes for Q&A. Please state your name, pronouns, and enunciate, but refrain from yelling. Speculation of senators' intentions and abilities is prohibited and will result in strikes. 3 strikes and you'll be removed from the ability to speak on the floor. Please note this meeting is being recorded. You may speak on any issue, whether it's on the agenda or not. Please include a contact warning if it'll be graphic. You may only come up once and you may choose to not answer any questions. Do you accept the speaking agreement?
Yes.
Senator Rob, before we start.
I move to grant the speaker additional 7 minutes of speaking time.
There's been a motion to grant the speaker an additional 7 minutes. Do I hear a second? Senator Amin? There's been a second. We're now discussing the other item. Senator item. Pardon?
One question.
Question has been called. We're now. Do we hear any objections? If you said there any objections to consent, hearing none, motion passes. We'll have 9.5 minutes total to speak. Maybe we can,
Practice the all time.
yeah,
Okay.
5 seconds if you want.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Charlie. I'm a fourth year student. And I'm concerned about the sort of way the elections have been going about. This year and last year for the supplements provided to vote, like the voter guides, no con statements have ever been submitted. And all the pro statements are always submitted by the people who run the organizations that the measures are provided for. So Health and Wellness always has pro statements provided by Health and Wellness staff. The MCC always has statements written by the MCC staff. But there's never anyone else on the other side. I think this is a big concern because this is supposed to be a fair democracy and a fair election. And if you provide voter guides consistently, only showing one side of an issue, then voters can't really make a good and informed issue. I personally have been trying to find out a lot of this information as well and make myself a more informed voter. But I've also been reaching a lot of difficulties with that.
And just for the Zoom audience, do you mind speak a bit louder so that people on Zoom can hear you?
I'll try to get this right now. So I've had difficulties trying to find more information about the election. Just the general way the Senate works, as the people in outreach earlier said, it's very confusing for a person who's unfamiliar with student leadership like me to try and figure out all of these details. The AS website, I believe, is still 2 years outdated. It still says like Tessa is president, and it honestly gave me the impression that the entire website was out of date. The meeting minutes that you guys upload to your download section, you have meeting minutes all the way from 2005, you have like all 20 years in it, and it's like an unordered list. So you have like 10 files on one page, you can click the next page, it shows you another 10 files. I believe there's like 200 of those. So sifting through those is basically impossible for any normal common person who's not in the Senate. And so I wanted to hope to suggest to the Senate that maybe senators could be writing some of the voter guidance in the future, because senators really are the ones who are most well poised to write on these issues. Again, as a common person, I tried trying to figure out a lot of these issues, and I was met with like a lot of difficulty, as well as sometimes this is just, I'm not allowed to see these things as a member of the public. So that's what I had to say. Are there any questions?
You accept questions?
Yes.
Yeah, senators? Noreen,
First of all, thank you for coming and
speak up, please.
First of all, thanks for coming and sharing your concerns are really important. I wanted to ask where you wanted to see the kind of pro and cons of each senator. Because if normally the way that it's done is when you run, you create a little blurb about yourself. And then when people vote, you can go in and see everyone's blurb. And so you can find the cons for that person within that blurb. So if they say in their blurb, for example, like, privilege out in your clubhouse time.
Right.
So that would be, that's just the first thing that came to mind. Then that's like that would be in that blurb. So you can come up with new ways.
Yeah, but I meant more so for the fee reaffirmations as well as the fee introductions. Those ones they've never had a cost statement, at least in the last 20 years.
Do you think it would be helpful then to create a list of questions that the future senators or proposed senators would have to answer?
That provide the cost statement.
Yeah. And
Yeah, that could be good, yeah.
okay. There.
Noreen?
Um,
Oh, Senator Hall.
Senator Chair, hi Charlie, I want to commend you on the great work you have done as a student. I know it's hard. My question is, as a student, what's your impression about the fee we collected? Do you think you are personally benefited from those fee or not?
My personal opinion.
So as a student, what's your perspective of all those fees collected and their effect on you as a student?
I understand that AS, I think, collect $197 from every student every quarter. I think a lot of the university services are funded by these. I use some of them. I know some of my classmates use some of them. So I guess I'm not too sure which ones are funded by student fees. I know there's like a icon on some of the services website, like CLIS will have like an icon on the bottom, but when I'm walking around campus, it's a little bit less clear exactly which building or which service is funded by our student base.
All right,
Is it okay if it's not a question?
sure.
I do want to say thank you, for coming with this. Just to share my ideas, because I think, at least when I've discussed this with the chair on, like con statements. It is hard to kind of get those in because it has to come from a student. You don't want to mandate those because you want it to be from the student body. So what I see, and it's kind of like issues we had at the beginning of the year when we were talking with pro staff about getting the website updated. I don't know why, but it never got done, but I think like working towards just making the information more accessible. This year on the ballot, all account statements, from my understanding, interim director, all the account statements will be on the ballot for the locking fees. The account statements.
The account statements, every lock-in fee. So you talk about all the reaffirmations?
Yes.
So on the voter guide, all the reaffirmations are listed, the reaffirmation language, which is just the straight up, do you approve, blah, 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 with the breakdown of the fee. And then the pro and con statements are right below that on this, something like that's it.
This year, so it doesn't have the full fee, like the.
Well, it has the full breakdown as mandated by UCRP.
Does it have a rollover this year?
It does not.
It never shows rollover on there, correct?
Yeah, so the supplement is straight up the language and then straight up right below that, pros that are submitted and the cons that are submitted. The last time a con was submitted was for a fee that was eliminated. Essentially, which was just a couple of years.
Just proved a huge point for me. I didn't, do you want to continue?
How are you for now?
Thanks a lot.
Also not a question, I just wanted to make this information available to you if you weren't aware. Nexus actually does do interviews with different executives who are running, and they do offer questionnaires to senators who are running, just if you wanted to find out more information. And it's just been a little bit delayed because of the whole election process being delayed, but there will be an asynchronous candidate forum that should be announced, more details should be announced this coming Saturday about when that should be available to students. Just to give you more information on people who should be running in the election.
That's on candidates, like people to vote for it.
Yeah,
Not directly relevant to affirmations, but generally for elections.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, all right, thank you so much. Okay, let's move into unit reports. Elections board is the most important one, but it seems like the interim executive director will be speaking on their behalf. Is that correct?
Sure, yeah.
Please make ready to go.
All right, so, from the Hewitt, the elections board, she actually had to step out, so I'll read the statement for her. I just important to say things out loud as opposed to have it, into the record. So, let's see, it says, hello, Senate, I didn't even do that. Following the decision of judicial council, she met with advisors to come up with a plan for the spring general election, which addressed the recommendations made by the judicial council in proceedings with the election. The elections board then took an email vote on this plan, approving the following schedule. So I'll skip the motion language because that's not exciting and go straight to the bullet point. To outline our plan simply, here's the bullet point list. Election board will contact writing candidates previously declared or any complete candidates and send a campus-wide email to all undergraduate students advertising the extension of the choice candidacy deadline to this Friday, May 2nd at noon. The mass email to students is currently being processed. That takes a while. Meanwhile, we are conducting other outreach to publicize this information to students. So that portal is open right now. I opened it at 3 p.m. Declaration of candidacy is due Friday, May 2nd at noon. Change from the 6 p.m. recommendation by judicial council to 12 p.m. to allow for us to check candidate eligibility. That takes several hours of this. Elections board will redistribute campaign board placement assignments after the declaration of candidacy is due and send out an email on Saturday about that. Do virtually by Saturday, May 3rd at noon, the candidate orientation ed puzzle, which is can be completed asynchronously for candidates. Candidate redeclaration for previously declared candidates, which is essentially like, yeah, I'm still running. Promissory agreement, candidate statement, candidate headshots. So all that information that if you're a candidate, you've filled out, or if you're here, you've filled out. Candidate forum to be conducted via video submission due Sunday, May 4th at noon. Elections board will send candidate videos to AS Media for editing Sunday, May 4th at noon, and they'll have a very quick turnaround. Let's see. Soft and hard campaigning begins Saturday, May 3rd at noon and goes through the 9th. So that's the end of the election. Voting opens week 6, Monday, May 5th at 8 a.m. through Friday at noon or as needed to reach 20%. Campus by email will be sent to all students on the morning of May 5th. Messages about voting on in AS elections is already on gold, will be on gold starting Monday, so all of next week. Where you arrange that. Election results will be live on Friday, May 9th in the late afternoon or the evening, assuming we hit the 20% voter threshold. Location TBD. We look forward to the Senate's collaboration with us as we move forward with the elections. If there are any questions regarding this plan, feel free to reach out to elections@as.edu and Ruby. Thanks.
Love it. And there is no ballot language or anything of the sort that sends it for this week, right?
But there is. So that was gonna be a separate thing from this. So this is this is the state of things and based off judicial council. And the lifting of the injunction, but the Senate still has to reapprove, and we can talk about this a little bit, like, is it a reversal of the veto or is it just approving it again? Because the ballot hasn't changed except for one thing that has changed. But everything else is the same, because you're not approving the candidates, because that would be wildly improper. Right, like, oh, I don't like the candidates, I'm not gonna approve the ballot, like, that should not, you shouldn't have that power, you shouldn't want that power. So I believe you still need to approve the ballot. I'm just unclear, maybe Holly can jump in with that a little bit about, is it make more sense to address the veto, or can you just bring it up and approve it again? So I don't know if Holly or Marissa want to chime in on that.
Yeah, I would recommend that they approve the ballot regardless, since the motion approving the ballot was vetoed. I know that you all are just going to be approving really the administrative process and the fee reaffirmation, but that would be my recommendation, is to approve the ballot again since it was vetoed.
So the only difference is the one thing that's on the ballot that was approved by the Senate, this body, before was the Senator Iden's questions, the referendum. And my recommendation would be to move the referendum to a separate survey, because it's a really long ballot and turnout's important, and I don't want people to, eject before they get there because they've just answered 34 reaffirmations and then they get to like an additional 15 questions. So that would be the one difference there.
Is that clear for the body?
Yes.
Do we have any questions? Sorry.
So last year, the 74th Senate passed the bill adding account statements to supplement. And it's not on this year's ballot.
If you forward that to me, I can see about what we can do. But the supplement right now is offline again. To give the people who are, if anyone does declare like a fair shake, at being public on the site. So everything about the supplement is offline until Saturday at noon. So it's possible. Definitely not a higher priority for me than making sure the ballot works, but I can forward that directly to council.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would really appreciate that getting done. I was under the impression it was already getting done. You need help with that, I can work with you and Michael to get all the information. Because I would really appreciate that on the ballot this year. So it's like, especially since it was approved last year. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, thanks so much, Dr.
Let's go from. Go from the business. Agenda.
Yeah, let's move into new business. First item is a bill to amend the Public and Mental Health Commission legal code by Senators like Ronnie and Suk. If the first and second would like to speak, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. So this legal code change comes as a result of just like working with the Public Mental Health Commission through the year with, COSWEB and, as Leanna showed us in the HIP proposal, this, legal code change would basically, give the PMHC the legal code responsibility of maintaining the naloxone boxes. So in the legislation, there's like the full legal code of PMHC. And the only change is under M, duties of the Public Health Special Projects Coordinator. Section E, shall work to implement and oversee a sustainable long-term program providing free naloxone in university affiliated housing. Restock any naloxone boxes reported as being empty once a month. At the beginning of each quarter, go to all the naloxone boxes to ensure they're filled. And schedule an annual meeting to review and modify any agreements with participating parties, including but not limited to the alcohol and drug program and campus housing, such as the residential and community living, residential operations, office of the Associated Vice Chancellor. I really don't have much else to say about this legal code change. Shout out Cassidy Miller, shout out Leanne Metzger for being so patient and working with us. This has truly been like a project we've like been working on and off, like working really hard to get this done all year. So I implore the Senate to take a look and hopefully table this to be passed next week. Thank you.
Is Senator Suk in attendance?
No, she's absent.
Okay, we're in discussion then. Senator Shaw.
I move to table.
Oh, wait, sorry, did you, Senator Lau, did you have something?
I move to table about amendments Public and Mental Health Commission legal code for a week.
So the motion to table a bill to amend the Public Mental Health Commission legal code for a week. Is there a second? Senator Goff? We have a second, one discussion. Senator Mahidula? Question has been called. Are there any objections?
Consent.
Consent, are there any objections to consent? Hearing none, motion passes. Action. We now move into action items, specifically the EASA conference. To replace the budget allocation for merchandise, which is $200 with ticket purchases for attending the EASA conference. I believe there's no one to speak on this, right? So I'd welcome any motions on it. Turn it off.
Motion to replace the budget allocation for merchandise. $200 with ticket purchases for attending the EASA conference.
There's been a motion to replace the budget allocation for merchandise in form of $200 with ticket purchases for attending the EASA conference. Is there a second? Senator Mahidula? There's been a second. We're now in discussion. Senator Ronnie?
Call a question?
Question has been called. Is there any objections to call the question?
Consent.
Your consent, your objection to consent. Hearing none, motion passes. But we move into.
It's a financial. It's about.
Right. Yeah, we move into a hand vote on this item. Yeses, please raise your hand.
Don't forget your online voters.
Okay, that's 9 plus. So 11, noes. Abstentions. 3. Okay. Motion passes. We move on to allocation from Senate allocated to catering. We welcome any motions on this.
Just a point of order.
Mhm.
We're missing about, I think it's 4 or 5 people voting, just so you're aware.
This one count as abstentions. Sorry, go on.
Yes, so did not vote for any of the options. However, of the people who does vote, the total is 14, so we reached the quorum and it's legal. Yield.
Sorry.
Inquiry, do we count those as abstentions, or do we just not count them as all at all?
We just don't count them at all.
Understand.
We're still on allocation of Senate allocated to catering. We welcome any motions on this. As is laid out in the agenda. You're all.
I move to allocate $500 from Senate unallocated towards the catering of the Senate meeting on April 30th, 2025.
There's a motion to allocate $400 from Senate allocated towards the catering for the Senate meeting on April 30th, 2025. Is there a second, Senator Ryan?
Second.
There's been second round of discussion. Senator Haydula? Question has been called. Is there any objection to call the question?
Objection.
Right.
Do Cynthia have a question?
Do you receive any call the question?
So,
No. All right.
No, we have to vote to vote.
just want to ask, right, one question.
Okay, I understand.
Thank you.
Okay. Senator rescinds her objection, Senator Iden.
I was just curious what the Senate unallocated is at currently.
Senator Zane?
Yes.
That $400.
We can also just come back to this, it's fine.
Do you have concrete figures on it?
Yeah, about 37,000.
Back to discussion on that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back in discussion. Sorry, Iden.
Call the question.
Question has been called. Is there any objection to call the question?
Consent.
There's been consent. Do I hear any objection to consent? Hearing none, motion passes. Oh, sorry, it's a go into a hand vote then. Okay, 3 yeses. Yeses, nos. Zero abstentions.
Point of inquiry. Question to Senate Haddad, do you wish to vote yes or no? I'm sorry, a question to Senate Sandy, do you wish to vote yes or no on this motion?
It was a yes.
Just give her button yes back from.
Okay, motion passes. Now we move into old business. Move into a resolution to support BHCE, brought to us by Senators Butler and Wahidullah. If the first or second have anything to say, the floor is yours. Senator Wahidullah?
Butler is currently moment, but she wanted me just to simply comment, just after, as she said, just to simply table the bill for today, as she said, she still has a continued meeting with the staff for this time.
There's been no movement on it since it was brought to us last week.
That is my.
That's just not complete. Okay. Senator LeBron,
Motion to table a resolution to support BHCE for a week.
there's been a motion to table a resolution supporting BHC for a week. Is there a second? Senator Laidlaw? There's been a second, we're now in discussion. Senator Bean? Question has been called. Is there any objection to call the question?
Concerns.
Thank you, Senator. Is there any objection to consent? Hearing none, motion passes. We move into a bill to amend Zero Waste Committee legal code brought to us by Senators Suk and Ganesh. If I, first or second, are here to speak, floor is yours. Senator Lombardi,
Neither are here, but, can I motion to, approve a bill to pass a bill to amend the zero waste committee legal code?
I recommend you
Okay, I'll rescind my motion for now,
present your motion.
but neither.
just vote on.
Yeah, okay.
Senator LeBron,
Motion to vote on to pass a bill to amend the zero waste committee legal code by hand vote.
there's been a motion to vote on a bill to amend the Zero Waste Committee legal code by a hand vote. Is there a second? Yeah.
We allowed to do that without the first and second present?
Senator John?
By convention, Senate usually table the bill if the first and second is not here. However, to my understanding, it's a convention, not a legal requirement, so everything is within the discretion of the Senate.
Do we want to, because I don't want to table it for a week, does it seem like the end of the world, or would you like to vote on it now? Senator Brian?
I'm like, from what I've talked to with Senator Suk and Senator Ganesh, like. I think it does look ready to go. That's me personally, and like talking to them, they have expressed interest in having it like ready to go to be passed. I won't speak on like, because neither of them are here, but like. I would recommend this fact, it is just like a legal code change that Zero Waste Committee has been waiting on.
Senator John?
I do believe the changes within this bill are minimal, and if it's approved by the Zero Waste Committee, I would personally fine with just passing it. Yeah.
Senator Hayes?
Yeah, right.
There's been a second, we're now in discussion.
Like one.
We're now in discussion. Senator Laidlaw? Question has been called. Is there any objection? Call the question.
Consent.
Any objections to consent? Hearing none. Motion passes. We go into a hand vote. Okay. Yeses. Noes. Abstentions?
We're not voting. We don't have quorum on that motion. We will have 13 people voting, so
Can someone call Senator Goodall? I believe would be the easiest way.
Point of order. The bill passed last week.
what?
The zero waste committee bill passed last week.
What?
Wait a minute.
1301. We don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
I should take off the agenda.
You're certain.
Yes, I'm looking at the agenda right now.
In that case, the chair will suspend the point of order and remove it from the agenda.
Okay, point of order sustained. That's lovely. Okay, I believe we can move on to discuss the next item on new business, but we will need quorum to vote on it.
Yes.
Sir,
I'm staying right now, kind of message Senator Cadet.
that's great, okay. All right, we're moving into a bill to improve internal AS operations brought to us by Senators Siddiqui and Shaw. If I have the first or second, would like to speak on the floor is yours. No.
No comment. I asked me to table it. I yield.
You want to table it?
I can't from the also I can table it.
No, I'm saying this. We don't need quorum.
We need it.
Okay, well, if you want to just talk to us a little bit about the way.
Refresh my memory then.
No, we have one.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, we'll welcome any motions on that suggestion. All right,
Motion to table a bill to improve internal AS operation.
there's been a motion to table a bill to improve internal AS operations. Is there a second? Senator Mahis. There's been a second round of discussion. Senator Rodney.
Call question?
Question has been called. Is there any objection to call the question? There's been consent. Is there any objections to that consent? Seeing none, motion passes. Bills table. Okay.
We just go down to engineer.
No, business litigation, right?
You did paint allocation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it.
We did.
No, we did it, but yeah, just go down the agenda. So cruising can be about intensive about.
Okay. Let's go down to unit reports. I believe the one on behalf of elections board was already given by the interim executive director. Do we have someone here for president's cabinet report? Executive director's report? Lovely.
I'll be brief. Ruby statement about elections was great. A lot of last minute ballot testing that used to happen. But everything is going according to normal plans, so CDC and GSA, all that are still on board for everything next year. That's nice. You said renovation, the finance room. In theory, starts tomorrow, the renovation for that space, so maybe it'll be ready before all of you graduate. Budgets, I think they said a month. So, we'll see, maybe 3 weeks. Budgets, no budget discussion is gonna happen, tonight, or at least I think it is. But I wanted to put it in everyone's ear, and I spoke to a couple senators about this. One of the 3 tenets of what was discussed previously is income generating ideas. And I don't know how active the controllers group is right now, but if anyone has ideas or wants to form a subcommittee or think about that, then I think that'd be worthwhile, especially considering hiring freezes and budget cuts and things that are coming down from on high. Right now, we have our ticket office, we have our publications, and we have our marketplace. So I wanted to talk about the marketplace. A while back, I think during the pandemic, we set up an online marketplace. Mostly it's there to sell our Mapache plushies and Storky plushies and things like that. Not huge money makers, but it's something. It's like a little something and also super fun. But there are other ideas. We're definitely open to people having suggestions. Also, just reminding people, because why not? Extravaganza is coming up May 18th. So I know a lot of, I always see, because I've been photographing extravaganza out there with my camera gear and other life, I was a photographer. I've been doing it since 2003. So super fun event if you've never gone. I wrote down some of the artists that I've seen out there that also maybe you know who they are. It's always hard to tell. Like if the person comes out, like I have no idea who they are, all of you would like, it's their favorite act. It's generational, it's fine. But Busta Rhymes, E40, T.I., Nas, Ludacris, Drake, Snoop, Kendrick, Chance the Rapper, Diplo, Playboy Cardi. And those are all acts that I've seen in photograph at Extravaganza. So pretty eclectic, really nice, it's always a fun time. Wear your sunscreen. Any questions?
Any questions for the interim director? I thought for a second those were all acts this year. I was like,
Oh, no.
You're saying?
Do you know what's coming this year?
I cannot say and do not know. Yeah.
Okay,
That order.
convincing. Anything else? Okay, thank you so much, Director. We move on to executive officers' reports. Center representative reports. Administrative reports. Committee reports. The outreach one was already given. Group projects and other you can read this one. State committee on finance.
Question.
Sorry, Joel.
A question to Chair Sands. So how much money do we have left in the high impact project fund?
Okay.
it's not really a fund that we look over, so I'm not sure, but. Just from memory, I know we have 35,000 for the year. I think we've spent about 25,
Okay,
so probably a bit less than 10K,
thank you.
but don't quote me.
Does that suffice?
Yes, yeah.
Sending committee on, well, liaison committee. Sending committee on advocacy. All right,
Just real quick, we're doing a finals tabling, I think it's during week 9, if anyone wants to come with Osweb and GDC and a couple others, I think PMHC.
lovely. Group projects and other temporary committee reports. Okay. Minutes and allocations. We can talk about this. Okay, moving on to minutes and allocations. With, welcome any motions on this. Carol, Steve? Okay, moving back into, reports under group projects and other temporary committee reports, Senator Steve?
So, you tabled then, I mean, I don't know if I can have today, for the other day. And I just want to say that they were super, super grateful for our presence there. They expressed that to me directly and, it went really, really well.
Right. That's great here. Moving into minutes and allocations. All motions. Senator Shaw.
I move to bundle and approve all minutes and allocations.
So the motion to bundle approve all minutes and allocations, or a second? Senator Lincoln.
Second.
There's been a second, we're now in discussion, Senator Goff.
Question.
The question has been called, is there any objection to call the question?
Consent.
There's been consent, is there any objection to consent? Motion passed. Senator Shaw.
I'm sorry, Chair, just go ahead, I'll do it.
We're moving into discussion items, and I believe we did not address budget deliberation.
Yeah, but if we could just do approval first, okay, so I could.
Sure, yeah, okay, briefly moving into appointments. What's up, Senator Shaw?
Senator Chair, I move to amend the agenda and add the resignation of Grace Kerr as a special project officer of GGC under appointments.
Motion to approve the agenda, now the resignation of Grace Kerr as special project officer of the Global Gulch Commission under appointments. Senator Shaw.
Second.
There's been a second, we're now in discussion, Senator Karani.
Call the question.
Question has been called, is there any objection to call the question?
Consent.
Question consent, is there any objection to consent? Seeing none, motion passes. It's been added on the agenda. Senator Shaw.
Motion to approve Alicia Christensen as ESU liaison.
A point of information.
Senator Shaw.
If the Senate wouldn't mind, would she amend her motion to bundle and approve our appointment as resignations?
Senator Shaw.
I amend my motion to bundle for all appointments and resignations.
No,
Since she's the first, it's fine.
okay. There's been a motion to bundle and approve all appointments and resignations by Senator Vidal. Is there a second? Senator Rodney.
Second.
There's been a second, we're on discussion. Right, question has been called, is there any objection to the called question?
Consent.
There's been consent, is there any objections to the consent? Hearing none, this motion passes. Okay, shall we move back into discussion items on the budget deliberations?
Let's approve the agenda.
Is that right?
Can I do my motion real quick in action items? Regarding the referendum, thank you.
Briefly move into action items.
All right, motion to grant the interim executive director, Sean Lieberman, the discretion of where to place the referendum section on the spring ballot.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Motion to grant the interim executive director, Sean Lieberman, the discretion of where to place the referendum section on the spring ballot.
Point of information to the senator. Could you send me that via email? Thank you.
Motion to grant the interim executive director. There's been a motion to grant the interim executive director, Sean Lieberman. Discretion on where to place the referendum section on the spring ballot. Is there a second? Sorry, there's been a second, we're now discussion. There's all,
Call question.
the question has been called, is there any objections to the called question?
Consent.
There's been consent, is there any objections to consent? Seeing none, motion passes. Okay. Let's move into,
Acceptance of agenda.
let's move into acceptance of agenda. Where's over? There we go.
The agenda.
There's,
Motion to accept agenda with amendments.
there we go.
Motion to accept the agenda with all current amendments.
There's been a motion to accept the agenda with all current amendments. Is there a second? Is that our meeting?
Second.
There's been a second, we're now discussion. Or later on,
Call question.
question has been called, any objection to call the question?
Consent.
There's been consent, is there any objection to that consent? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Was that second?
That was good, meeting. Okay. Moving into discussion items. Under budget deliberations. Okay, yeah, since the proposal is likely briefer, we can move into that. I welcome all motions. For discussion. For all.
I think that's a great proposal. Even though we don't have enough in HIP fund, we can always move money from student unallocated to it. I see student either have some opinion, maybe out of love.
Right.
I just got confirmation from Michael. Unallocated is at $3,519.
Could you remind me, is that deficient of what's being asked here or just total line?
Well, the total is 11,000.
At all?
I believe there are some money left within high impact project fund.
I can get an update on that.
Thank you.
Do we want to budget the list while this is resolved?
Okay.
Okay. While we get more information on that, let's move on to budget deliberations. The floor is open for discussion. All.
My question to the Senate is that, do you wish to implement the allocation to BCU for staff salaries starting from this fiscal year? Or you want to wait on it? Yeah.
Sorry, can you speak up and say it a bit louder, please?
That I think it makes the most sense to wait until the next fiscal year. That's all.
Or I didn't see it.
I want to say I'm more in line with waiting as well, just because that is a big change that would need to be communicated with ECUs. Which might serve better over the year unless, there's already been a communication going on that I'm not fully aware of. Let me know.
Since Paulo and since Sam want to weigh in on that, we're discussing whether or not to do the staff salary allocation this year or next year. Yeah.
We're talking about the staff allocation thing?
Yes.
You should definitely do it this year. Or at least like have like a little blueprint for it.
Would you like to elaborate? What?
Like, I don't think, we were talking about account number 125, right? Staff salary?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we should make it 0 this time. And then have it all from like DCUs, but we should keep it what it is at right now. I think we cut about 500K during our own deliberations. we should keep it at that and try and get that 500K from like the BCUs. And then like actually using the services of the advisors.
They're all-
I totally agree with Cindy. The problem, not the problem, the challenge AS faced right now is that also non-locking fee BCUs shares the pool of money with staff salary. As inflation rises, the budget allocated towards non-locking fee BCU is proportionately reduced. And a way to alleviate that is to allocate the cost of staff benefit to all of the BCU. I believe that's a more equitable solution, and I would be yes, advocate for implement at least a small percentage this year a year.
Right,
And then just to confirm, we wouldn't necessarily have to make this decision until the actual budget deliberations. Or would it need to be today?
they're all-
We can pass the final budget by week 6, so we have 1 more week.
Mr. Burley, do you have any comment on?
I agree.
You're saying?
Are we not doing the version?
Yeah.
You guys, I mean, it's not. A God-given answer, is it? Do you want to get into it?
I mean, think if we could like discuss the budget piece a little bit.
Okay. Does the Senate agree that maybe that would be good background to discuss this question as well?
Okay.
Okay. Would you want to carry that up?
Do we have to move into closed session for this or? We should probably.
Yeah.
Hi, Holly. Would it be best to move into closed session to have the budget deliberation discussion?
I think that's gonna depend on how in depth you want to go into deliberation. So I think if you're gonna open it and discuss like specific groups, it may be more helpful to go into closed session for that, just in case there's anything more sensitive, broadly speaking, that you want to cover. But if you don't want to cover specifics tonight, then I think that's fine in an open session. So for anyone that wants to comment, if you think that you might have something to share that is not necessarily private, but you don't want to have in an open meeting, you might consider going to a closed session for that.
Seems like by precedent, usually for these discussions, we go into closed session, correct?
Yeah, usually. I mean, I don't think there's a wrong answer. I just think that when you all are deliberating about specific groups, it can get a little trickier to do that in an open setting. So yeah, I would say the last, oh gosh, at least 3 years, you all have gone into a closed session and then you exit with all of your changes. So that has been precedent for the last few years.
Okay, how about we cover the HIP proposal first, briefly, and then we go into closed session, just in case people want to go in depth, we don't have to reverse track. Sounds good, maybe. Okay, great. Let's jump into the HIP proposal, cover that. And then we can go into the lips. Third all.
So Chair, it's the associated writer of budget and finance operation have given you a response in the item.
I'm fixing it now.
Interim Director, you want to know anything about this?
So how much money is remaining in the high impact project fund?
Oh, I do not have that number on the, I did write it down. Not have it. Problem with our system at the moment is that I catch it wholly up, from anywhere.
Certainly.
We don't have access to the HIP proposal thing. We can just do what we did 2 weeks ago and like put in a resolution, transfer money from undesignated to unallocated, then pass it from this.
There's no strict time limit on this, is there?
Sorry?
There's no strict time limit on this?
No, we could do it right now.
Floor is open.
This is more kind of like a point of inquiry, I guess. So like, in general, like with this HIP proposal, it's like something that PMHC would wanna do, like, in preparation for the new school year, like it's something they wanna have implemented before like the fiscal year starts, I guess. But we could still deliberate on it, cause like budget deliberations, that's gonna take more than one session. We're probably gonna go into more budget deliberations next week, correct? So, maybe I could reach out to the people with the proposal and see if we can find like alternative modes of funding. As well, and then see like we can like negotiate down, I guess, cause like they're asking 11,000, maybe we could talk to like other. Organizations that still have money for the school year and see if they'd be willing to pitch in. And then come back to like, okay, these people are committing this much money, can we still have like, maybe like $3,000 kind of thing?
Right.
Also, like, the president hasn't come to present the budget, correct? I don't think so, right? We're kind of, unless you're like reading the budget in depth, we're kind of like walking blind into this, which is a little tough. Like, I think we should still like discuss it today after I get the information from Michael about our accounts, at least for the HIP, but. This is, it might turn out like last year. I don't think it'll be as intense, but, next week we might have to just judge it out.
What's your saying?
President's budget is the same as the finance committee's budget, there were no changes.
As well.
And since we are talking about budget, I have a question to the interim executive director, through chair of course. What will be the process of Reserve Paddock Center, because we might need to go into early money for budget?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes, so what's the process of Reserve Paddock Center to do the budget deliberation? As we might need to be doing it all the way until early morning.
How do we repeat last year is essentially the great question to ask.
Holly and I.
All right.
Yeah, the Pardall Center right now is managed by one of our colleagues, Fernando, if any of you've met him. So usually when we go to reserve the space, we check in with Fernando. So that's something that either Marissa, Sean, or I can check in for you, and it's going to depend on availability, but that's the process. I think Fernando may have other questions like setup, so we may need some extra hands to move tables or chairs. I'm not sure, but he usually lets us know what he needs.
Because we, let's just do this. If as the first to this right now.
Would minute takers be okay with taking a 15-minute recess now to hopefully get some questions on the HIP proposal, and then we can move into budget delibs and I'll go home.
It depends. If you're gonna go into closed session, that would be fine, but if not, then you would still have to take another break at 9 when the shifts are switching.
The plan is to go into closed session, yes.
Then I guess that'll be fine.
We shouldn't go here.
No, not this. It's gonna be, will be. Should be. Will be end of hours. So go on.
I think in the consideration of time, let's just table the HIP proposal until our next meeting, so we can have more answers. If that's amenable with the Senate.
Thursday?
I don't really have a lot of information on this either, so.
So it seems like it would be best to wait a week and then move into it. Don't like Ronnie.
Like, when do we have to do a resolution? It's like, let's say like, Oh, cause like HIP, fund still has money, so it'd just be like, or like next week to pass the fees from like, to move the money from that into the project, we have to do a resolution anyway, so I need time to write that anyway. So I'll have that resolution ready and let's deliver it next week, so yeah, let's table it.
Floor is open for motions. There's all.
Since it's under discussion items, we don't need to table it. We can just,
Oh, so we can just discuss it again next week, just make sure it gets on the agenda?
yeah.
Oh, perfect, okay.
There's all.
And move into a 20-minute recess until 8:15 PM. We will, and actually, no, I rescind that motion.
There's all.
And moving into a closed session discussion. Inviting Senators Protsy, Interim Executive Director, Director for Community Engagements and Leadership, Associate Director for Governmental Affairs, Administration.
Okay, well, there's been a motion to go into closed session inviting senators, proxies, the interim executive director, director for community engagement and leadership,
Associated Director, Assistant Director for Governmental Affairs.
and assistant director for governmental affairs. Is that covered? Is there a second? Senator Wahidlaw. There's been a second round of discussion. Senator Lambrani.
Call the question.
Going to call the question. Is there any objection to call the question?
But-
Consent, is there any objection to consent? Hearing none, motion passes. We're now in closed session. Good night.